Hello and welcome. I'm Creative Occlusion. I'm from Texas, as you can tell by my accent. And welcome to my tutorial on doors. I've already got a scene set up here, but I'll be sure and show you how I made it and everything like that. It's really simple. This is just the blue part here is just three different cubes. And basically to create a cube, you just right click and you go to basic shapes and cube normal. And as you see, a cube just pops right in. And then these up here at the top of the screen, these three manipulators will allow you to move it, rotate it, or scale it. And you can scale it in thinner, and you can scale it up tall, and you can move it up. As you see, this one's a lot bigger than that one, so we can scale it back down a little bit to where it's about the same size and put it on the ground. As you see, there's not really much to it. If you right click, you can look around. If you hold down shift and like your W key, you can move fast. Just your W key, you move real slow. And then you have your A, D, and S to move backwards. But as you can see, you can just click scale. You can make it wide like part of a wall. And basically, I just put this three pieces, made a big one for the top, and then made it a narrow one for the door. Sorry about that. And that's real easy too, as you just grab it and you can just narrow it out like a door. And you right click on it and you can go up to your action editor or your action add and you can add physics to it just like that. Your physics just pop up over here on the side, and your properties, like they're just static with box collider on it. It's not going to be moving, it's just a wall. On the door now, when you have the door, I right clicked on it and I added an action and the physics, and down here on the physics properties of it I changed it to kinematic and mesh, which they just have little drop downs. You have static, dynamic, and kinematic, and then you have box, sphere, capsule, convex, and mesh. I like to use the mesh on the doors. It seems to work the best. Now as far as this model goes, um, let me show you one more thing here that I kind of did so that you'll know how to do it. Uh, you go up here to this little flower, and this is going to open your asset manager. So you open the asset manager, and I believe I already have mine down here. But whenever you get the asset manager, I just grab like a dark blue material and put on it. And you just drag them and put them on there. And you can bring in your own textures and you can create your own materials with the textures and everything like that in the material editor, and there are some tutorials on the site for that. SkyLine is a very nice engine. It's real easy to learn. Right now we're just going to delete that model, and I also dragged in a player, which he comes with all this stuff here that you can manipulate and everything. He comes with his own micro script and everything. But to create him, it's the same thing. Just right click, go to dynamic objects, FPS kit player. And let's go ahead and run this real quick. And when you run it, your player drops in. And there's the door. And when he runs up to the door and hits it, the door opens, has sound, and you can walk through the door. Smooth. And there we go for that. So let's escape from there. You can play it anytime you want to in the editor, hit escape, and go right back to where you were at. Now this, I created a trigger. To do that, basically I just drug in a basic cube, which you just, oh, I'm sorry, we want to go to basic shapes and a cube normal. And there's my cube, and let me drag it out here out of the way and lift it up. And then on this cube, I went up and I named it Like when you check this, I named it trigger. And then you just right click on it and you go to the action editor and you go to collision and we make it a PhysX trigger volume. Once you add that in, if you see over here, that cube lit up, turned green. And then I added a script to it, which you go right back to your action editor and we go to script and we add a micro script to it and just drop a micro script on it. When you have a micro script, you can edit that in your script editor, and we can just close it because as you see it came up with the name cube normal. I have one already in here that's already attached to this one, but that's how you attach them and everything. We can delete that and it completely goes away, but let's go back to this one and let's edit this micro script that I have. We'll kind of go over it a little bit so that you can understand a little bit about what's going on. On initiation, we just have it where we're having a door ID here. This just prints that it's activated. It prints it down here in this SkyLine console. It'll let you know that it's activated and that it's working. So as I'm playing it and stuff, you can watch down here and you can see the things that are happening down here. And the door ID, we're going to get the ID from the tag. Now the tag, whenever we select the door, I renamed it. You just double click on this and you can rename it to door. And then I came down here and I set a tag. I came down here and door_7 is the tag that I set it with. You have to make sure that you set this tag or else it won't really know what to move. So back to the script editor. And there I set the tag, and this door ID is going to hold this ID from the tag. It's going to get this ID from the tag and put it in door ID. You don't want to have two models with the same tag. This body ID, it's going to get the physics of the door, the kinematic physics that we made right here. It's going to get that, and it's going to store it in the body ID. This section here is just for setting up the sound. This is a sound that I had that I added into the asset manager and under sounds, and then I just have to put in electronic door.wave and it has my sound set. That's the sound that I want to use. Excuse me, I had to get a drink of coffee. I love coffee. And then right here we're actually going to create the sound. The sound's not playing yet. Now then, down here we're going to skip the update just for a second. But down here on trigger enter, when we set up our trigger, here it is right here. Under trigger events, we want to have on enter checked and on leave checked because we want something to happen on both of them. If we leave this one off, something will only happen on this one. So you have to make sure it's checked. We don't really need on stay right now for a door. We really just want to do something whenever we enter the trigger, and whenever we leave the trigger, we want it to move the door. So back in the script editor, I have down here, we're going to get the object that hits that trigger. And we're going to get entity name, hit ID. And then we're going to right here, we want this to print down here in this box over here to the left, the SkyLine console, that we entered it. And then we're going to print the name of the object hit. It's going to get the entity name up here and store it in object hit. So these two dots kind of like add to this, the name of the object hit. And then we're going to get our direction, which is basically not so much the direction as it is the speed. We're going to control the direction just with the Y because we're just going up and down. The Y goes up and down. So this is basically the speed that it's going to move. You'll have to adjust this speed for different doors, different sizes, and things like that. And then it's going to play the sound. and then it's going to actually move the door. When we get to this move the door part, this update is going to be looking for move door equals true, and whenever it finds it, if move door, that basically means if move door equals true, then it's going to get the XYZ position of the door ID. Remember the door ID up here? We got it from the tag. It's going to get that position of the door ID, and it's going to take the Y position, and it's going to add direction. So it's going to add direction equals 0.9. So it's going to add 0.9. And if that Y is greater than 4, then it's going to stop that door. And it's going to set Y to 4. Then it's going to end that. And whenever we're actually leaving the trigger, it's going to move that direction to negative 0.9. So then it's going to be a negative. So if Y is less than 1.4, I had to set this to 1.4 instead of 0 because of the pivot position on these models. Like whenever I select this door, that pivot position is right in the center of that door. It's not down here at the bottom. When you make your own models and you put them in your 3D modeler, you'll want to move that pivot position to the bottom of that door at 0. You want to have that door sitting right at 0 so that you don't have to fool with this. But if you use the models in here, the basic models, they all have the pivot position right in the center. So kind of remember that if you're working with these. On my door, from this center down to this bottom part is 1.4. So we're basically moving this door from the center. Back to the script editor. That's why that's at 1.4. If it's less than 1.4, it's going to stop moving that door down. And then it's going to set its position at XYZ. Now this body ID up here, it's going to get the physical body from that door. It's going to get this kinematic mesh that's over here. And the reason that we have to put this in there is because otherwise the door will move, but the physics will stay in front of the door, and you won't be able to walk through the door. Let's go ahead and let's put 2 minuses in front of these. Here's another one with body ID. It only takes 2 lines of code to get that to move with the door. But let's save this, and let's go back and let's run it. And I'll show you what I'm talking about with the physics. If you've been around playing with the engine for a while, you probably noticed this. But we go to right here, and let's run through the door. Uh-oh. Nope. No. That door moved, but the physics stayed in front of the door. So this line of code right here gets that body, and this line of code down here positions it, and it's going to set that position of that body at entity.getWorldPosition door ID. So it's going to set it at the position of this door ID. The position of it is right here, is where we get the position. The X, the Y, and the Z is get the position of the door ID, and it's going to keep getting it as this update runs. This update's just going to run over and over and over. And if this move door is true, it's going to do all this. So as that door is moving, the whole time it's moving, it's going to set this body ID, which is the physics, to the position of door ID. So that's going to get all that together. And on enter, we're going to move it right here. We're going to move it. It's going to go through all this. Then it's going to come on down and it's going to say, oh, wait, he left. So whenever you leave, it's going to set the direction to a negative. And this same code up here, y equals y plus direction times delta time. The times delta is going to make the door move the same no matter how fast your computer is. That door is going to move at that same speed. So that's what that does. I hope you can understand all this code. I got this code from the regular, I believe it's in the code modules over here to the side, and I believe it's in mechanics. And yeah, here's your door trigger code. This is what's going to do your door trigger. And they do have a visual scripting system in this engine that's still being developed, but it's getting better and better all the time. I'm not going to do this tutorial on that. I like code myself. I like using code. And but anyway, I did modify this up to make it simpler and just a one straight deal, and it's going to move that door and do all the things that we need to do with that door. And basically all we did is attach this micro script to that trigger, to this trigger. We attached this micro script to it and saved it. And we make sure that enter and leave is selected. And we make sure on the door that it's set to kinematic mesh under the physics properties so that we can get it to move like it's supposed to move. So we'll play it one more time. And let's run up to the door. Open, hit the trigger. We run through the door. No, we don't. Why didn't that work? Let's escape. Let's see what's going on here. Let's go back to the script editor. And we got an exclamation point up here. That exclamation point usually means that you didn't save it. So we hit save, and then it turns into a green check mark. Now we can put this down. Now if we run it, then it'll work like it's supposed to. And now we shoot all through there. We can run right through it. Which I barely made this door big enough on the character. As you can see, he kind of like cracked the wall there going through it. And let's see if I've really missed anything. Oh, that's the wrong one. Here we go. We can put that back down. And here's where it plays your sound. As you can see, it plays the sound ID. Here's the sound ID. This is where it used all this to create the sound. And you can change the volume up here however that you want it. If you want it louder or a little bit less loud or whatever you want to do. And you can use this script to set up a door almost in no time. You can copy and just paste this into another micro script, save it, and make your adjustments right here. As this is like your up, this is where it's going to stop. So if it's like going way too far, then you lower this number and lower this number, and then it'll stop sooner. And like if you're set up with your pivot point at 0, like I was talking about, you would want to make these 0, and that would be a lot easier for you than you're basically just having to control the up. But on this one I had to set it to 1.4 because I had to kind of find the center of that door. And to do that is real easy. Under, like, we're going to close all this stuff down so we don't get confused. We go under translation right here, and it has your position. And as you see right there, we have 1.4. This is your X position. This is your Y position. And this is your Z position. Some people like to put commas in here and stuff like that instead of just a space, which I like a little bit better, but this is okay. And this shows the entire scale of it. So if you wanted to make this round the scale out better, you can just double click on any of these and change any of these numbers. We can change our 1 or our 4 there. But that's where I got my 1.4. It's 1.4 something or other, but I just changed it to 1.4. You may have a big long number after it, kind of like this 1.7 here. And that's where you kind of get that information. So I took that, just kind of rounded that to a 1.4, went in here and put 1.4, 1.4, and that gave me my center just about exact. It may be a tad bit off or something like that, but you don't really notice it while you're playing it. You can just run right up to the door. You got a good door here. You shoot it, and the physics go go right up to the top with it. The physics are still on the door. We just moved them up to the top. So run through and the door closes. You may have to adjust the speed to like go with your sound. The door may stop before the sound and stuff like that. And to do that, that's real simple too. Down here you have your direction, and this is basically that direction means speed. And you got a minus speed and a forward speed, but I just call it direction. It was already in the script. Like I said, I used the script out of the editor and just modified it for my own use. But you always want to make sure your move door up here is set to false to start with, because you don't want your door moving right when the game starts, because whatever you have up here, it's going to automatically set it. If you had this set to true, it's going to automatically move that door whenever this takes off. We can just look at that real quick. We'll just save it, drop it down, run it, and I believe it already. Well, no, it won't do that because of your... Yeah, I'm sorry about that. I don't know what I'm thinking sometime. We're going to change that back to false anyway because I like it. Well, I just wanted to say a couple things about the SkyLine engine. There's two very, very great people working on this engine, and anytime that you have a problem with it, they will help you with it, and they're always there to help you, no matter what kind of problem that you have. They're always around to help you, and I think that this is a great engine. It has great potential. It's still in beta. It has a lot of things that need to be ironed out in it, but for the most part, it works to where you can make a game with it. You'll run into little problems here and there, but there's always help on the forums. Nobody ever puts you down for asking a question that might be dumb or something like that. And it's just a great engine. I really enjoy working with it. I enjoy playing with it all the time. And I just I just feel like I needed to say that just to kind of let everyone know that this is a great engine. It does have great potential. It's very easy to use. You can right click on a model and you can go into the action editor and you can just add all kinds of different things here. You want to add an effect to it, you got a sky particle, you can add effects right to your model. There's all kinds of different things. You can add paths for your NPC. You can turn anything into a path almost. You have trigger volumes and collision volumes, and you can add your own cameras in. You can add multiple cameras in and switch between the cameras. There's just all kinds. In your player, you have all kinds of. You have a whole entire damage system. You can attach armor. You have AI sensors. Uh, you can use a set something up to be a pickup item and automatically just pick it up. It's a very, very easy engine to work with. You can make microscripts and micrographs. The graphs, that is their visual scripting system that they're working on, and it's going to be really nice whenever they get a little more added to it. Right now, it is workable. You can add offsets. You can attach objects to your object. You can just do so much in this engine. And I guess that's it for now. Hopefully you learned a little bit about setting up a door. I guess the number one thing about the door is moving the physics along with it. And like I showed you, them two lines of code right here where I get the body ID, and right here where I just set the position of the body ID and set it to get the position of the door ID. And I hope that you learned something today, and thank you very much for watching my video. And this is the first tutorial video that I've ever made, and I'm a little bit rusty at it, or a little bit I don't have any experience in it, so I'm just kind of throwing the thing together, and I hope that you learn something from it. And my name is Creative Occlusion. I'm from Texas, and this was a tutorial for the SkyLine engine to help some of our newbies learn a little bit about some simple things like moving a door. And I thank you very much and have a nice day.